This Life 30, your 30-day journey to creating the best life possible for yourself. You can just watch this video or can sign up for free and get the bonus companion worksheets that go along with each video by checking the link down in the description below. All right, today is day 27 and we're going to learn how to hire properly.
You need a team around you to deliver a lot of ideas. How do you choose your team? Based on what?
Well, I suppose honestly that it tends to be gut feel more than anything else. So when I interview somebody, my interview question is always the same.
What do you ask?
I said, tell me the story of your life and the decisions that you made along the way and why you made them. And then, and also tell me about some of the most difficult problems you worked on and how you solved them. And that question I think is very important because the people that really solved the problem, they know exactly how they solved it. They know the little details. And the people that pretended to solve the problem, they can maybe go one level and then they get stuck. I've made several hiring decisions in the past where I valued intellect over heart, and I think that was a mistake. And so I've tried to adjust accordingly. It actually matters whether somebody's a good person beyond just goodness itself.
How have you hired your team, and what do you look for when you bring people on?
If you think about it, I started the company when I was 19, right? So I can't institutionally believe that experience is that important, right? Or else I would have a hard time reconciling, myself, right, and the company. So we invest in people who we think are just really talented, even if they haven't done that thing before. And that applies to people who are fresh out of university, as well as people like the CFO who took the company public had not taken a company public before, right? And a lot of his background was in production development at Genentech before. So just focus on really talented people.
I don't hire people who I wouldn't work for myself. I think that that's a really good heuristic because everyone knows this. Like, there's this saying like A players hire A players and B players hire C players, which is like good people hire good. And I don't think that that's that informative, right? Because what are you going to say? Like, to someone in your organization,
hire better
you're a B
people.
player, you don't get to hire people. Like, no. And I think a lot of the time the problem is you don't actually know. And sometimes you're like trying to figure out how good someone is. If you didn't think they were good, you wouldn't have hired them. But the heuristic of only hiring people who you would work for tends to be pretty good, I think. Because then it's like, then that right? It's like, I would not work for this person, then okay, I'm not going to stretch just because I need to fill a role today.
The greatest people are self-managing. They don't need to be managed. Once they know what to do, they'll go figure out how to do it. They don't need to be managed at all. What they need is a common vision. And that's what leadership is. What leadership is having a vision, being able to articulate that so the people around you can understand it, and getting a consensus on a common vision. We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did. But we're not necessarily those seasoned professionals, but who had at the tips of their fingers and in their passion the latest understanding of where technology was and what we could do with that technology, and who wanted to bring that to lots of people. So the neatest thing that happens is when you get a core group of 10 great people, it becomes self-policing as to who they let into that group. So I consider the most important job of someone like myself is recruiting.
We agonized over hiring. We had interviews. You could go back and look at some of the interviews agendas. They would start at 9 or 10 in the morning and go through dinner. A new interviewee would talk to everybody in the building at least once and maybe a couple times, and then come back for another round of interviews, and then we'd all get together and talk about it.
And then they fill out an application.
No, they never filled out.
The most critical part of the interview, at least to my mind, was when we finally decided we liked them enough to show them the Macintosh prototype, and then we sat them down in front of it, and if they just kind of were bored or said, this is a nice computer, we didn't want it. We wanted their eyes to light up and them to get really excited, and then we knew they were one of us.
And everybody just wanted to work, not because it was work that had to be done, but it was because something that we really believed in that was just going to really make a difference. And that's what kept the whole thing going.
We all wanted exactly the same thing, and instead of spending our time arguing about what the computer should be, we all knew what the computer should be, and we just went and did it.
We went through that stage in Apple where we went out and we thought, oh, we're going to be a big company, let's hire professional management. We went out and hired a bunch of professional management. It didn't work at all. Most of them were bozos. They knew how to manage, but they didn't know how to do anything. And so if you're a great person, why do you want to work for somebody you can't learn anything from? And you know what's interesting? You know who the best managers are? They're the great individual contributors who never, ever want to be a manager, but decide they have to be a manager because no one else is going to be able to do as good a job as them.
What I found out, the accountants and attorneys who went to the biggest schools are not the best. I have found what I'm looking for is somebody who may be a private guy who is passionate about entrepreneurship. So they're a great attorney for entrepreneurs. They're not, most attorneys are looking for the big client, like I want to work for, General Electric. What I want is the attorney and the accountant who are passionate about it being entrepreneurs. So my guys right here in Phoenix are entrepreneurs, and my accountants are entrepreneurs. Every time I hired the big name corporate and law accounting firms, I have been grossly overpaid and underserved because they're so used to doing bigger things, they don't have time for a little guy like me. It's the same with bankers. I'm looking for a banker who loves being an entrepreneur. You got to have this partnership with the banker. I dump on the financial services industry a lot, and they deserve to be dumped on, but you got to have one on your team, So my banker is the love of my life because that's where I get my money from.
To me, love is very important. I look for someone who loves the company, who loves a vision that you're casting, I'm casting, loves a crusade, that their heart starts connecting with it. Because if you can hire, my experience has been, if you can hire people based on love, you don't need to have work ethic on a list, because love is an action, in my opinion. If love is an action and the definition of love to you is also an action, it's a verb, then that means everything from love, work ethic comes because of love. So if someone loves, they're gonna have a work ethic. If parents make food for their kids 3 meals a day, not because they have to, but because they love and they put the time to cook. If parents put the time to drop off the kids in the morning and pick them up and work so hard and do this and do that, love. There's no manual that says you gotta work hard when you're a parent. No, the manual is you love, they have a place in your heart, so you work. So I hire based on love. So, and another thing with love is this as well to keep in mind. You can't force somebody to love you, your vision, your company. You can't do it. And if you constantly are trying to force somebody to love you, it's kind of like the guy who's in love with this girl and he loves her so much, but she doesn't love him. She likes him. And she tolerates him. And all his life, he's trying to earn her love, and she's just not going to love him. She doesn't love him. She just likes him. They're just together because it's good. This guy has all his life, and that can be very draining. I don't hire for forcing somebody to love. If you love it, we're going to work together. If you don't, no problem. You're going to find a place that you're going to love, and we're going to find people that we're going to hire that we're going to love as well, and that's okay.
As a interview question, because we obviously can't tell people what we're doing, so we want something that has artificial intelligence, maybe has some comms problems with it. It has to really have these meaty, hard, like get dirty in the world kind of stuff, because all the things that we do have those characteristics. I have often asked people a question about, let's say that we have robotic moles, and we're sending them out in the world. They're supposed to go find gold and bring it back to us. And then just engage them in a conversation about, like, how would we do gold detection? How far do you think one of those moles could dig before it had to come back and get power? Do you think it'd be realistic to, like, put a tether on it so that it wouldn't run out of power? Should we have conveyor belts, like, out its butt so that it could, like, send the gold back and just keep digging? What would happen if that mole, like, went, like, under, the ground into Canada or Mexico? Like, if one of the moles goes rogue, what are we going to do? And you very quickly get into this state where you find out who's going to go with you on these journeys. Yeah. Because some people just kind of short circuit, and minute 2 of the questions, they're just like, I know. And then the interview often is over. They don't know it yet for another 28 minutes. But But some people are super excited and they're like, wait, I actually think we could do that. And it's probably, we shouldn't be making moles going digging for gold. We aren't, don't get excited.
But if you find one, please return it.
Yes. But the people...
Don't take the gold out of its
No,
mouth.
exactly. Oh, they don't like that. But the people who will engage in that conversation, that's a good sign.
Everybody wants to know who to hire and what do I look for. And obviously, I look for someone that's humble, and I look for someone that's balanced. And really, it's one of those things where as much as you can before you hire someone, get to know them. And the advice we give people at Echelon Front all the time when they're looking to hire someone is we say, look, if you can, hire them temporarily. Bring them on as a contractor for 90 days. You have to see them in the environment that they're actually going into, they're going to be working in before you know what they're really going to be like. Because just like going through, they screen people like crazy to go into SEAL training, and they can't tell who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. They just can't tell. And you work with people in the SEAL teams and you think you know what they're going to be like when you go into combat, but you just can't tell. You can have a decent idea, but you just can't tell. And so if you get the opportunity, or the best way to do it is try and bring people on board in a temporary manner so you get to know them better. And then once you know them, you can either hire them or you can get rid of them easily.
When someone comes to look for a job with us, they'll say, well, I got to make money. So great, what's the pay, salary, job, whatever, that stuff. That's the bar. Then the next bar is, who am I going to be working with? And if you're working with A players, then you pass to the next test. And the final test is this a mission that I care about? Do I really want to wake up every morning and really put my all in? And if you can have all three of those, if you can be paid properly or paid competitively, it's not necessarily paid more, just competitively. If you can be surrounded by A players and you have a mission that you care about, you will have people lining up to work for you, and then that flows to where the customers, you'll have customers lining up to buy a product or use your brand.
The people you hire define the culture, whether you like it or not. So Larry and Sergey, when they started the company, said, we need to have really smart people. So they hired a rocket scientist, and they hired a medical doctor, and they hired a Stanford graduate who had been a professional football player, because they figured that they wanted normal people who had done something exceptional. So in my case, I was a pilot, and I had done other things, and they said, okay, you're good enough. The CEO has to have something besides being a CEO that makes them interesting. And everyone had something. And I would go around and I'd say, well, what's special about you? It's like Sesame Street. What's special about you? And what's special about you? But there was always an interesting story. So another lesson I learned is that you don't hire generic people. You hire people who've had some kind of stress or achievement or whatever. The best people to hire, by the way, are CFOs who've gone bankrupt. Because boy, have they been through the war. And on the CFO side and the finance side, you want somebody who's not going to happen again. Yeah. And you only go bankrupt once, by the way.
I think the second thing is you have to hire big. And big, I don't mean famous. I mean ahead of where you are. So when you're growing an organization really quickly, what happens is that what normally takes an organization years happens in a period of just months. So when I was at Google, my team went from 4 to 4,000 in about 5 years. That means that if you look at those first 4 people I hired, in order for them to be part of the people who are running that organization, they need to do about, 10 or 15 years worth of growing and, getting experience in a much shorter period of time. So if you think you're going to grow quickly, hire for what you think you're going to need. Overhire. Hire people who are more qualified, have more experience, or hire people who are right out of school but can overachieve in their current roles. I don't think it's a number of years in the workforce that matters. I think it's hiring the people that you're going to need now, because then happens so quickly.
We look for compliance and willingness before intelligence.
So you don't look for skill, you look for someone who's
I don't look for potential.
hungry.
I never look for potential.
What do you look for then? Just like, yes, I'm willing to do whatever.
We hire the way the Patriots do.
Right.
They don't hire the best guys.
Right.
They never do. They get all the rings, though.
They do.
Okay, there's 3 people in charge on that team. There's not 33. It is a dictator. There's a dictator on that team, If you study all sports, I mean, it's pretty much like that too. You know, I mean, Portland doesn't really have that. You know, he leaves Curry alone, and he leaves, you know,
Durant
alone, and they're doing good. You know, I mean, it's a different style, right? But somebody's
those are with superstars. Yeah,
man, it's got to be so hard.
Yeah, 'cause everyone's got a personality. Everyone's got their opinion. And
But so let's see how long that legacy can last. Yeah. What are they? 3 years now?
Yeah.
So, you know,
Third year, yeah.
Let's see if they tear themselves apart. But I know that New England Patriots thing works.
Consistently.
There's an owner. He's not involved.
He trusts the coach.
This guy, Bill, runs the deal.
Yeah.
And then Bill gives the ball to Brady and says, go do the deal.
Yeah.
You know? So they hire from the lower half of the draft. Mm-hmm. They don't overpay for anybody. And if you don't comply, you're looking off the team. Mm-hmm. They're going to win without a great person. I like that.
I'm going to give you one quick system.
You got it.
This is a system that involves people.
Great.
One of the most valuable things that I've ever done. Just used it recently with great success. Really, really helped me out. I call it the daily update.
Right.
You hire a new person. You sit them down on day one and you say, Tony, we're going to be working together. Really excited about working with you. I'd like you to do one thing for me. At the end of every workday, I'd like you to send me a daily update. Send it to me by email. It should take you 5 minutes to do, 10 minutes max. If it takes you more than 5 to 10 minutes, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
In the daily update, I want you to tell me 3 things. Number 1, what I did today, results I got.
Right.
Number 2, problems or challenges that, you know, came up.
Right.
Number 3, questions that I have for you.
Right.
Okay? So, what I did today, results I got, problems and challenges, questions.
Right.
If you will watch someone's daily updates every day for 30 days, you will learn so much about them that people who have known them for years don't even realize, because you will see the pattern.
Right. Are they results driven? Are they activity driven? Do they even, notice the difference in their life? Noticing whether or not they're really even asking any new questions, whether they're getting curious about things in any new way, shape, or form. What is perceived by them to be a problem versus
exactly. Will they ask you if they have a problem? What's going on? And
really great.
Even more importantly, do they send it to you every day?
That's the most basic test of all.
Really?
That's true.
Okay? Because
you're absolutely right.
When you get to the end of the first 30 days,
and you got 12 of them, or 6, or none.
Exactly. There are a couple of scenarios. One is they sent it every day, but it's bad news.
Yeah.
One is they sent it every day and it's good news.
Yeah.
Another is they didn't send it every day and it's bad news. Another is they did it and it's good news, whatever. So there are kind of these options. If you've got someone that's performing, it actually doesn't matter whether they sent them every day or not, because they're a performer.
Yeah.
If they're a superstar and they didn't send the daily update every day, you can say, we're going to get you an assistant that's going to send your updates every day, okay?
Right.
Fine.
Just tell them.
And maybe you can coach them or whatever.
Right.
But if they're not performing and they're not sending daily updates, or they're not performing and sending daily, you'll see it. And I mean, in my experience, the underperformers, they usually don't send the update every day.
Right.
And then when you sit down with them at the end of 30 days, you can just say, look, I asked you to do one thing consistently for this 30 days.
Great. It's really great.
Right? I asked you to do one thing, and just send me a little daily update. And they'll have excuses or whatever will come up. And you say, I just don't feel like this is going to be a good fit because we need results and accountability and communication, and it's just not your style to do that.
Right.
You're not. Then it kind of works out for everybody. It's in everybody's best interest. So the daily update has been tremendously valuable.
The trick is, and it sounds facetious sometimes, but it's not. You hire great people, great actors and actresses, and then you get out of their way. You don't play the director. You don't hover over them. You let them change your lines. You let them make up their own contributions and do things, because the people that I've worked with have had careers and are famous and are great before they met me, and they're great in my movies, and they're great after they leave me. So nothing special is happening. If you just hire wonderful people, that's all you have to do, and just don't mess them up. Don't ruin them. And, it's really a very simple thing. Then you get credit for directing them, and everyone says, well, you did such a great job. But it isn't. You're just not screwing them up, that's all.
Bill Gates was asked what was the winning formula of Microsoft when Microsoft was really the heavyweight champion of their industry. I think they're a little lost right now, but the larger point again is he replied with this: What made Microsoft was not our software. What made Microsoft was our hiring. I just want to suggest to you the second point or trait of a world-class company is their ability to hire A players. Here is the brain tattoo I want you to absolutely hardwire into your business philosophy as a leader. You cannot build an A-level company with C-level talent. If your company is not winning in your field right now, you likely have weaknesses in your hiring. Don't just hire people because it's the easiest move to make. A lot of companies spend very little time on hiring and then most of their time managing their hiring mistakes. And you know, if you're building a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a manager, if you're a CEO, like a lot of the people who watch these mastery sessions and come to my live events, you know I'm speaking truth here. So you really want to nail your hiring.
The next recommendation is that you hire infected people. I think that an infected founding team is probably more important than a founding team that on paper has a good background in work experience or education. That people who love the product or service, that's more important than their degrees. It's more important than their work experience. Focus on the people who love the product or service. This means fundamentally you ignore what's irrelevant. And in many cases, education and work experience is irrelevant. This is completely contrary to what most VCs will tell you. If you have VCs further on into this course, and if you ask them, well, what are you looking for? They're going to tell you, and I'll tell you that right now. You can skip that lecture. They're going to say, we want proven teams with proven technology and proven traction. In other words, we want people who have founded Cisco, won a Nobel Prize, and they're doing $50 million in revenue. That's an early stage deal for a VC today. All right. By contrast, Garage is in a different business. We want unproven teams, unproven traction, and unproven technology. It's a completely different world. The irrelevant thing is that, think about what an entrepreneur has to go through. So let's take what might seem very attractive to many venture capitalists. Let's say that on your founding team is someone who was a senior vice president at Microsoft. Most VCs would salivate at the thought. This is a proven executive. This executive has been with Microsoft for 10 years, has helped Microsoft grow, et cetera, et cetera. But if you peel the layers of the onion one level lower, you would see that that executive, during his or her career at Microsoft, had on average a war chest of $50 billion in Microsoft. During that time frame, they had a market share percentage of roughly 95%. During that person's tenure at Microsoft, that person's greatest fear was the antitrust division of the US Department of Justice. Now you're going to take that proven executive from Microsoft and stick them in a garage with $500,000, zero brand awareness, zero market share. I would make the case that that might not be the ideal hire for you. Okay? Now you may be wondering, why in the world are there diamond rings in this picture? It is because I am living proof of this theory. I graduated from Stanford in a psych degree, as I told you. I attended UC Davis Law School, and when you say you attended a school, it means you didn't finish. I attended 2 weeks, so in fact, I never got started, actually. And after that, I went into the jewelry business. I enrolled the following year in an MBA program at UCLA, and while I was there, I started working in the jewelry business. My first job was literally counting diamonds. So on paper, if you were Apple Computer's recruiter, you said, all right, so we need someone to go out and to convince the most technical audience we have, software developers, why they should write Macintosh software. I don't think the spec would say psych degree, law school dropout, marketing MBA, currently counting diamonds in Los Angeles. That might not be the sweet spot, okay? But what enabled me to be successful with Macintosh is I loved Macintosh. The scales were removed from my eyes the first time I saw it. the clouds parted, the angels started playing their trumpets. It was a religious experience for me. That's why I succeeded, because it ain't because of my psych degree, and it's not because I attended law school for 2 weeks, and it's not because I have a marketing degree from UCLA, all right? Ignore the irrelevant. What is relevant is they love the product. Second point, you should hire better than yourself. Very difficult for most founders, particularly engineering types who believe that because of their superior chip speed, that they should be the best salesperson, the best finance person, the best marketing person, and the best engineering person. You need to hire people better than you. A players, by definition, hire A players. B players hire C players. And C players hire D players. So pretty soon, you'll be surrounded by Z players. Okay? That's what's called the bozo explosion. And what follows the bozo explosion is the layoff, okay? So avoid the bozo explosion. The third thing is to apply the Stanford Shopping Center test. The way this works is, suppose you're at Stanford Shopping Center. You see someone who's being recruited by your company, who's interviewing at your company. The distance between you and the person when you first see him or her is from me to the back of the room. That person up there has not yet seen me, but I have seen them, or him, or her. So at this point, I have this sort of choices. I can rush over and say, hi, how are you? I know you're interviewing. Can I tell you more about the company? I really think you should join our company. We're just going to kick some ass. We're going to make meaning. We're going to change the world with our technology. Or you can say, Stanford Shopping Center isn't that big. Maybe I'll bump into them. If I do, I'll say hello. If I don't, I won't say hello. The third reaction is I'm going to get in my car and go to Valco Shopping Center. Okay? If your reaction to the job candidate is not, I'm going to run over there and say hello to the person, don't hire the person. Because when you're creating a startup, it is a family. It is a dysfunctional family, honestly, but it is a family. If you don't feel the compulsion to run over there and say hello, it's probably not the right person.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the best Live 30 questions of the day. It's not enough to just watch a video. You have to do something about it. So pull out your worksheets. And if you don't have the worksheets, you can get them for free using the link in the description below. Here we go. Question number 1. What change do you need to make to your hiring process? Number 2, who around you are not the right people that you need? And number 3, how will you move on from them and bring in A players? And if you're doing the Best Live 30 challenge with me, I want to celebrate you. Give me a hashtag Best Live 30 down in the comments below.
You will never accomplish your business goals without a team. You have big goals, big dreams, big ambitions. It will never happen as a solo entrepreneur. You need to get out of the mindset that you can do everything yourself. You can't. You can go fast. You can stay small, be nimble, and being a solo person. And you still may always be the most powerful and important individual in your company, but you need to build a team. You need to scale up, and you need to get over your fears and hire properly. So I think a big reason why most entrepreneurs don't end up building successful teams is because they get burned, because you don't know how to hire properly, because you hire somebody, you think, this is great, this person's going to take over all of these things that I don't want to do, they're going to solve my problems, and then you can go on to build bigger things for your business. The problem is that first person rarely works out. The first person that you hire very rarely works out in the business. Very rarely. Look at companies and look at their success and look at who employee number 1, 2, 3, 8, 10 was, and see, are they still around in the company? Very rarely does it work out. Most of the time it's because you don't know what you're doing, because you don't know how to hire, and so you hire the wrong person. I'm going to give you a process that I go through that I think will really help you, that you can learn from my success. We have 24 people on my team, and I want to shortcut the path for you because I think the hiring process is broken. What do most people do when they hire? Most people, they do some kind of job ad, they post it, then you do this long interview process, right? You're reading through resumes and cover letters, you bring them in for an interview, and then you get down to the one person, you end up hiring them, and what ends up happening, a lot of times that person doesn't work out, or they're just okay, but you don't want to fire them because you don't want to go through that entire painful process again to find somebody new. It's too painful, it sucks, you don't want to do it again. Here's how you flip the script. 1, when you're doing a job posting, you make it one big ugly paragraph. This is what I do. A job posting is one big ugly nasty paragraph. Why? Because I want people to be detail oriented. I want people to read the whole thing. I don't want to make it easy, because a lot of times the job's not going to be easy, right? So one big ugly paragraph. In the middle of that big ugly paragraph will be some skill testing question. It'll be something like, tell me how many subscribers I have on my YouTube channel, right? Or tell me how many followers I have on Twitter, and put it in the first line of your application. 80% of people won't do it. 80% of people who apply to a job will not answer the skill testing question. Why? Because they didn't even read the application. They didn't read it. They just saw the title. I'm looking for a video editor. I'm looking for an online marketer. I'm looking for XYZ, and they hit submit, and they send it to you. Now, you're going to spend time reading their cover letter, reading their resume, going through their work history, but they spent 5 seconds on you. You're going to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes on each of them, and they spent 5 seconds on you. Times that by 100 applicants, that's a lot of wasted hours. No wonder why you don't want to go on through that process again. It sucks. 80% of people will not read the job description. You need to filter them out. 5% of people then say, great, tell me what your Twitter account is, and I'll tell you how many followers you have. Go to Twitter, type in Evan Carmichael, you can find me, right? You need to have a little bit of resourcefulness if you want to work for an entrepreneur. So already 85% of the people are eliminated. They're gone. Now I only have to read through 15% of the applications that come through. This is a lot better, right? These are the people who put in the time, who read the application, and they want to work with you. Great. Let's talk about that job posting. What's in that big ugly paragraph? So you want to lead with the values. What do you stand for? What are you all about? Even in the job title right away, I'm looking for a video marketer that believes in entrepreneurs. And then talk about what my company's all about, what my mission is, what I'm trying to accomplish. Right before getting to the job description and the roles and responsibilities, I want to lead with the mission, because somebody's going to look at that and say, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Amazing, don't apply. Or they'll say, I love this. Finally, I want to work extra hard to apply for that company, right? The people who are good fits for you from a values and culture point of view, they will self-select in. That's what you want. So don't just tell me in your job ad what the roles and responsibilities are. Lead with the mission. So lead with the mission, lead with the values, tell me what your company is trying to do. Then you have your skill testing question, and then you tell me what the job description is all about. Like, what am I going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? What's my role? What do you want me to do every day?